what are the steps to become compliant when it comes to sales tax?
Yep. Great question. So at a high level, just step by step here. Number one is an economic nexus study. And it doesn't even need to be economic nexus. It could be physical presence. If you have inventory in a state, employees, vendors, things of that nature, all those things need to be considered. So one, determining where you have nexus. Two, I would say step number two is taking that information from the economic nexus or nexus study in general and applying it to each state. Okay, so I've got 15 states that I have nexus in. What's my next step? And generally, so we could probably break this out in like 2A, 2B, 2C. But after you determine where you have economic nexus, you need to register for sales tax purposes. Now, the tricky part about this is you don't want to just register with the date that you decide to do it. And this is simply because, when did you cross that threshold? Because what happens is if you say, so today is April 14th, let's say we registered in Illinois today and we put April 14th. If the state questions that and they realize that you should have registered a year earlier, that's a problem. That's a big issue, and it's going to lead to penalties and interest like we discussed earlier. So not only registering, but registering with the proper date is very important. So once you register with the proper date, the next step would be to, obviously wait for the state to acknowledge or accept your registration. And then generally most states are going to have some kind of online system to where you can go and you can see, okay, well, what do I have to do? It's like a sales tax account online. And usually what happens is if you say, so let's just give an example. Let's say that we registered with an effective date of January 1st, 2022. It is now April 14th. You're going to see 3 sales tax filings that are due. And basically what that means is the state said, okay, well, you identified, you represented to us that you had an obligation in January. So here's your monthly sales tax return that you need to file for January, February, and March. And then obviously April will be due in May. So that would be the next step, is to, just kind of wait for the state to tell you what you need to do. Some states won't do that. Some states will put you on a quarterly filing and you might not have any obligations until that quarter ends, until a certain quarter ends. The next step is to get those returns filed, which is a pain, especially if you might not know exactly how to file, each state's rules on how to report, et cetera. But generally speaking, after you do those things, after you register, after you determine you have an obligation, you register, you get confirmation from the state, and then you go ahead and you file all the returns that you need to file, you are caught up. And obviously making the payments that you need to make with the tax returns the back tax returns that you filed. Once you've done all those steps, you are caught up and you're ready to be compliant moving forward.
And that's a hell of a process. That's a lot of work to do right there. I feel for me, the most confusing thing would be figuring out how much sales tax I actually owe each particular state. But, what part of this whole process do you think confuses people the most or causes the most uncertainty?
That's a great question. From experience, just what to do in general. I mean, there's no, it's obviously very easy if you have somebody saying, okay, hey, this is what we're going to pay this month. Like, we'll take care of it, or this is what we're going to file. That's a very easy process. Like we talked about earlier, getting an email and saying, here it is. Let us take care of it. All done. We're good to go until next month.